70 acres of rugged hills, whispering pines, and a defiant silent stretch between my land and the nearest coffee shop, and I intend to keep it that way. My name's Ethan Carter, 38, a former city engineer who traded fluorescent-lit offices for the raw solitude of Northern Carolina. After 20 years wrestling logic into public grids, I'd had my fill of pointless meetings and supervisors who couldn't tell a volt from a vote. I took my severance, bought this sprawling plot, and built a life that answers to no one but me and my bees. I'm not just a hermit with a hammer. I laid every inch of my private power line by hand, threading cables through clay and granite, plotting transformer stations like a general mapping a battlefield. My system hums with solar panels, a diesel generator hidden in the northern ridge, and enough automation to run without me babysitting it. It powers my cabin, my workshop, my server room, and, most critically, my Apiary 16 hives nestled in a grove by the southern fence. Those bees are my pride, buzzing with a rhythm as steady as my own pulse, but they're finicky about power. A single voltage dip can choke their ventilation fans, and my girls don't survive that kind of neglect. 7 years ago, Willow Creek Estates sprouted at the base of my property like a weed in a crack. I figured it'd be quiet retirees and golf carts. Instead, it's a beige empire of identical houses, ruled by a homeowners association with a rulebook thicker than a brick. At first, they left me alone. Then came the polite letter inviting me to join their HOA. I scrawled Helen O across it in black marker and mailed it back. That should have been the end. It wasn't. 2 weeks ago, a letter arrived, and signed but dripping with corporate arrogance. It wasn't an ask, it was an order. Willow Creek wanted temporary access to my power line to ease their grid's infrastructure strain. Translation, their system was buckling, and they thought they could siphon my juice like it was a public fountain. I sat on my porch that night, bourbon in one hand, the letter in the other, watching the sun bleed into the pines. The bees hummed faintly, their fans whirring on my line. Any surge or drop could cook them alive. I wrote back the next morning a detailed, notarized rejection, complete with blueprints, receipts, and a survey proving my line was mine alone. I marched it to their office myself, dropping it on the desk of a receptionist who looked at my muddy boots like they were radioactive. Silence followed, but it was the kind that hums before a storm. Then came the second letter, signed by Margaret Voss, Willow Creek's HOA president. It accused me of denying neighborly duty and creating a hostile energy environment. Legal threats followed. Hostile? She hadn't seen hostile. I ignored her, bolted extra locks on my transformer yard, and backed up my security feeds to a cloud drive. I dealt with city suits who thought they could bully their way into my systems. An HOA president was just a bureaucrat with a superiority complex and a bad manicure. The bees didn't care. They worked, efficient and territorial, a lesson in loyalty. Nature doesn't bargain with leeches. You build your hive, you guard it. Parasites get stung. I was wiring a new battery bank when gravel crunched under Tyrese's sound that didn't belong. I dropped my wrench, grabbed my walkie, and strode to the front gate. A white work truck idled just beyond my property line. 2 men in hard hats and polos stepped out. One clutched a clipboard. The other was already unloading cable like he owned my land. Private property, I barked. The clipboard guy turned, slow and deliberate. "Mr. Carter," he said, like we were old pals. My hand hovered near my phone. "Who sent you?" He flashed a document with a red-stamped header, Emergency Municipal Work Authorization. It screamed fake vague language, no county seal. I'd seen forged permits before, usually from desperate contractors. "Touch my line, I call the sheriff," I said, snapping a photo. The second guy, silent till now, stared at my pole supports like they'd insulted his mother. Something about his stance nagged at me, familiar but out of reach. I called Sheriff Deputy Malone anyway. He arrived in 10 minutes, took one look at the permit, and gave me a nod. "Not county issued." "You want trespassing charges?" "Not yet," I said. "Log their names." The workers left, but the quiet one shot me a glance that lingered too long. Recognition flickered, but I couldn't place it. That night, my attorney, Rachel Holt, laughed when I emailed her the permit. "Clumsy forgery," she said. "No permit number, no traceability. Someone didn't think you'd check." "I always check." She drafted a cease and desist against Willow Creek, calling it attempted theft. But my gut churned. The bees were off at dawn sluggish, clustering too thick at the hive entrances. Hive 9 was nearly silent, its fan barely spinning. Diagnostics showed a subtle voltage drop between 2 points on my line. I was being siphoned. I grabbed my tools and traced the line through morning fog. 200 meters from the transformer, near an old oak fence, I found it. Fresh soil, a glint of conduit underbrush. Someone had tapped my line, shoddy work with mismatched cables and electrical tape. I photographed it and called Rachel. "This is criminal interference," she said, voice low. "State level. We filed with the Energy Commission. An inspector confirmed it within a day. Unauthorized access, structural risk. Proof." But something still felt off, like a wire I hadn't traced. Then a truck rolled up at dusk, a city utility vehicle, decals scraped off. The driver stepped out, cap low, clipboard in hand. I knew the walk before the face. "Jake?" I said, stunned. Jake Sullivan, my old grid tech partner from the city. He'd vanished years ago, debts piling up. "Can we talk?" he asked. Over coffee, he spilled it. Margaret Voss had hired him and other down-on-their-luck techs off the books. She promised jobs on an infrastructure board if they tapped my line quietly. "She said you wouldn't notice," he muttered, sliding a USB drive across the table. "She's recording calls, meetings." I copied them. I plugged in the drive that night. Margaret's voice, sharp and smug. "He's a loner with bees and batteries. He won't know we're on unless the honey stops." My blood boiled. The bees had noticed. The next morning, smoke hit me before I reached the apiary acrid, cutting through the pine. Hive 4 was smoldering, its fan melted, bees dead or gone. 3 other hives had shorted fans. One had a rag stuffed in its vent. Sabotage? Camera feeds showed 3 figures at 2:13 a.m., dark clothes, one with a gas canister, another jamming something into Hive 4. They tripped a motion sensor and didn't care. I sent the footage to Rachel and the sheriff. This was agricultural sabotage, trespassing, livestock endangerment. Then, in the junction box, I found an envelope, another fake permit, signed by Daniel Reed, a county official I'd seen at zoning meetings, and a memo about selective integration of private grids. Margaret's words, unfinished. I drove to Reed's office, slamming the envelope on his desk. "You signed a felony," I said. He stammered, pale, claiming Margaret handed him a pre-signed form. "Just a formality," he whined. "Lawyer up," I said. The county retaliated, labeling my transformers a public hazard and demanding an inspection. I was ready. The inspectors found a system cleaner than their clipboard Severy cable labeled, every schematic pristine. "This is flawless," one muttered. "No shit," I said. Rachel had already filed 2 lawsuits, one against Willow Creek and Margaret for sabotage and theft, another against the county and Reed for complicity. We had everything: footage, recordings, forged permits, losses, even the memo. Margaret played victim at a town hall, claiming she acted for community safety. But discovery revealed she'd charged residents for energy fees from my stolen power, pocketing the cash. A viral clip of my bees swarming the burning hive hit the news, sparking outrage. My mailbox filled with letters from others who'd fought HOAs. Public pressure crushed the county. Reed went silent. Margaret doubled down, her cronies dumping trash on my drive with signs calling me greedy loner. I filed restraining orders. This was war. The courtroom was ice cold, not just from the AC, but the stairs. Margaret sat in beige, chin high, like she was above it all. I wore flannel, no tie, let them see me. Judge Clara Thornton, sharp and no-nonsense, presided. Rachel laid out the case like a blade: forgery, sabotage, harassment. Jake testified, voice steady, exposing Margaret's manipulation. Her recorded voice, "He won't know unless the honey stops," drew gasps. Footage of the hive fire, Reed's forged signature, and Margaret's fake fee sealed it. Reed crumbled, admitting he signed without reading. Margaret's tears didn't move Thornton. The verdict was swift. Margaret got 12 years for wire fraud, sabotage, and conspiracy, banned from HOA rolls. Contractors got suspended sentences and restitution. Reed faced 7 years, 5 on release, and lost his job. I was awarded $720,000 and full grid independence. My case set a precedent for microgrid rights. The bees didn't care about law, but they'd understand the hive was safe. It took weeks to rebuild new lines, fans, Hive 4. The bees returned, warier, their flights tighter. I added thermal cameras, drones, a plaque on the transformer, property of E. Carter. Federal order. The town stares turned to nods. I wrote a piece for a homeowners' rights blog when the HOA steals your power, quoted in a Senate hearing. But the Real one was quiet. I planted a sign by the old splice. Private line. No thieves. HOA keep out. My neighbor, a retired cop named Frank, paused his ATV, eyeing it. Be still mad, he asked. Only if you're dumb enough to steal, I said. He laughed. The hives hummed, a warning on the wind. Let them try again. The swarm never forgets.